up and going. Hey, Matt. Where are you, Matt? See if we can get Matt up here. Did this work? Yes! All right, figure this out. I am so terrible at technology. I do not.
Oh, man. Well, the worst part about it, too, is if your connection's not great, it's terrible.
Oh, yeah, no. How's your connection?
It's good.
Yeah. Nice. How are you doing?
Good. Just working away. Actually, it's kind of nice all this shit's happening because it's getting me caught up on some of the manuals I've been working on, trying to finish. I'm working on a vertical diet cookbook, which is mostly how I learned how to eat that way and be able to sustain it for the last 3 years and lose a bunch of my body fat and still eat a lot of food and be a bigger guy.
Right.
So I've been working on that because I've been using seasonings and different types of rice and meats to kind of mix and match how to kind of sustain the diet. So that's going pretty good. I'm getting pretty close to finishing it, and then working on a mini workout manual that's basically how to add in small amounts of volume on top of your normal workouts to be able to get more out of your training without adding in too much. So it doesn't affect your main workouts, which I've always been hesitant about writing a mini workout manual, even though I've been doing mini workouts for like 10 years, because every time I talk about it or try to show somebody, you know, they don't realize that when you start to do mini workouts, it's a multi-year process in order to do stuff that's beyond the normal workouts. You know, everybody wants to work out 6 days a week when probably 2 and 3 days a week, if you do it right, would actually make you better.
Yeah.
So it's just, you know, it's where I feel like I wanted to put out the manual so at least people would have the ability to find the right information, because I just don't see, I mean, there's a lot of us, you know, at the top, we, you know, discuss and sometimes argue about what's the best way to train, but you just don't see, a lot of people putting down all the extra things that it takes to be successful. And that's really the meat and potatoes of being good, is what you're doing outside of the gym or what you're able to add in that makes you succeed in your normal workouts. So those types of things I've been trying to really lock down, but I didn't feel like I was an expert on dieting until I dieted for like 3 years.
Right.
You know, and I didn't feel like I was an expert on designing mini workouts and telling other people how to do it until I've been doing them for at least 10, because I wanted to add in, you know, not only keeping injuries away, but also, you know, trying to figure out how to add more in without overtraining. And it took me a couple of years to figure out how to do it right and then put the numbers together on top of it, you know?
Right. Absolutely. That's awesome. Speaking of the stuff that you're doing right now, manuals, one of the hottest topics right now is the fucking coronavirus. Obviously, it's affecting us all. So, hot topic. How is this affecting your gym, your job, your work, clients? What's going on there with you with all this?
Well, I mean, the good thing about my facility is if I wanted to keep it running the same way I had it running, I totally could, because I'm a private facility. I don't really follow the same rules, and I usually don't train more than 5 people at a time anyway. So
social distancing.
Yeah, for me, I'm already social distancing. You know,
story of your life.
I try to stay the fuck away from people as much as I can, so it's not really a big change for me. And now that I live out in the country, it's even better, you know.
Right.
So, I guess the big thing that I have found is that it's affected the online coaching, because even though we have, I would say 50, 60, maybe even 70% of our online coaching clients are still going to normal gyms. Mm-hmm. So they're closed. So we had to write, you know, body weight stuff for maintenancing.
Right.
You know, I put out a 3-week maintenance phase workout on our Patreon channel, which is like my paid YouTube channel. And then I just posted a free YouTube video on some key exercises for staying at home. I think it's a lot of shit that people don't really think of, you know. And honestly, on most of those exercises, I haven't seen a lot of people posting them doing those. But so I figured I'd throw those out there so people could get a little bit of a better idea of what I would do if I was sitting at home.
Right.
Let's see. Other than that, the business is going pretty smooth. But yeah, it's odd because, I've talked to a lot of, a couple of my doctor friends that train at the gym, and a couple of the upper level people around politics, and they say that the coronavirus has already come around Ohio. So there was this huge viral and respiratory infection that came through Columbus, Ohio in November, and we had a lot of people really sick, and they were testing negative for the flu.
Oh, no shit, yeah.
So in my opinion, I think that the coronavirus has already been here.
Been passed.
So, yeah, that makes kind of sense to us. Plus, like Seattle, we're a very international city. There's a lot of corporate headquarters like Chase, and a lot of fast food headquarters like Wendy's and White Castle and all that shit, where a lot of people fly from all over the country to come to Columbus and the world. So we're not seeing a huge outbreak in town as much as I think that they would have thought. And I don't think it's because of social distancing. I think it's because it's already been here. But,
right.
We just didn't test for it. We didn't know what it was. So I don't know. I don't know if this is just mass hysteria. I just find it very odd that it's coming around an election year, that the economy is absolutely trash before it started.
Right.
There's just a lot of little things that are just kind of like, I don't know what's really going on. I mean, to me, it seems like it's just too ironic that it's happening right now.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's strange.
I was actually talking to a friend that I trained. He was top 50 in the world in tennis back in the early 90s. And he's a tennis coach here in town. And his brother died of AIDS in like 1991 in the Bay Area, over in San Francisco, Oakland area. And before he died of AIDS, or was sick from AIDS, before they even knew how to spread it, how it was being spread, they didn't know it was blood, and sexual contact.
Right.
And we didn't freak out that bad from AIDS back when they didn't even know how it was spread, which is so crazy. It just seems like, I don't know why they're going so violently insane over basically a flu bug.
Yeah.
So I need to do more research. To be more of an expert at it, but from what my mom's a nurse practitioner, is in charge of dentistry at the VA, and she says they're just treating it like it's a really bad flu up there, and that's one of the largest VAs I think in the country. Sure. But
are you guys closed down there as much as we are in Seattle, with restaurants and everything there as well?
Yeah, restaurants are closed. Any place that's a social interaction place is closed, but everything's open for carry out. You can go pick stuff up, which is just funny as shit to me, because like they're handling your food, they're handing you your food. So really the only thing you're not really touching is a lot of those handrails and stuff like that. But it's funny because if you were to go to McDonald's back when it was open, they tested those, how you can order like on the screens now, I guess. I don't go to McDonald's, so I don't know. They said that they found like tons of fecal matter all over the controllers on every one of them.
Oh, geez.
Like, we're just dirty assholes anyway. I mean,
Well, we definitely have dirty assholes, so.
Exactly. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. It just seems as odd that it's so severe, because it's, it doesn't seem like it's that severe here as far as who it's affecting and who it's hurting. We have a handful of firemen that have it right now, and
I was going to ask about that. It's because you're training with the tactical work and stuff. Has that been affecting them quite a bit? All this?
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty cool with me. I don't go in there right now. They're not letting anybody in the firehouses that aren't there to actually work. So, but they're pretty cool. They're paying me anyway. Like, I'm showing up. I just do all their workouts online right now.
Okay.
But they're not. I mean, there's none of the firemen that I've trained, which is almost 350 firemen in Columbus. None of them have it. So. It's odd. It's almost like, from what I have experienced, it's almost like this ghost time. This ghost thing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
it's a weird one. Do you have any advice for coaches, for online coaches, how to kind of take care of their clients during this time?
Well, I think the first thing to making a proper choice is to not be stressed out. So I think all of us are going to lose money at this time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the thing of it is that if you're doing things, financially smart. I mean, I could probably live, I would say, a bare minimum of 5 to 6 months with no income right now. So the point is that everything I'm doing, I'm not doing in rashness. I'm not getting over anxious about producing anything or trying to overshoot myself or, trying to make up or, I think when you start to do that kind of stuff, you end up making improper decisions for people. So I try to do low stress. It tends to always give me the right direction to do things. But I find that in our field that people tend to live check to check, and that's a huge issue, So I know that one thing for you guys out there, they're making it, at least in Ohio, they're making it very easy to file for unemployment right now. Yeah. So I got 3 or 4 friends that work in bars and stuff, and they're filing for unemployment, and the state is making it very easy for them to collect that. So that's something that you guys could look at as well, because I know we all pay into that.
Right.
So it might be one of your only chances you ever get to get any of that money back.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go into a few questions. We'll stay away from the coronavirus because whatever. How to touch on it though, but
Sure.
I have some people that want to know some things from you, the expert. I didn't give an introduction to you, but I don't need to because everyone and their mother and their grandmother knows who you are. But for those that are watching that are like the 5 people that follow me, Matt Wenning is my best friend. I'm not his, but he's mine. So.
Yep.
And I appreciate
you're the only one. You're the only one. When I came to Seattle, you're the only one that showed me around. Everybody else dissed me out.
They're assholes. I'm not an asshole.
I know.
I'm
exactly.
the big kind of asshole at least.
Yeah. Exactly.
So ever since that weekend, we've been best friends. So.
Well, probably.
I appreciate it.
I'd say probably.
I think so.
Since I did that seminar, the seminar I did out there was.
That was a while ago. Yeah.
2 years ago, I think, maybe 3.
2 years of being best friends with Matt Wenning. You guys should all be jealous. I'm jealous of myself, Anyways, okay, so knowing you and knowing your work, you're not the biggest fan of direct overhead work. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's correct. So
that's exactly right.
If you were to program for an overhead athlete, say the CrossFit, strongman, Olympic lifting, how frequently would you program in overhead work, or would you more just focus on triceps and stabilizers? And what would that look like for you with the overhead athlete?
That's a tough one because I still think you have to ask yourself, what do you really think you're capable of? Now, here's the deal. Me and Half Thor are really good friends. Half Thor's won a couple World's Strongest Man now. He's won, I think, the Arnold twice in a row, or 3 times in a row. So arguably at this point in time, probably one of the best strongest man we've seen in a while. And if he needs to do overhead work, by all means, go tear out your shoulders,
Right.
But here's the thing. If you're doing stuff at an amateur level or you just because you think it's cool, I think you need to figure out a way to get better without damaging yourself. Because at the end of the day, if Thor can't walk when he's 50 from all the crazy shit he did in his particular scenario, maybe it's worth it. Guys like Brian Shaw and guys like Half Thor and guys like Kazmaier and those dudes, they're just going to have to do certain things to be better than everybody else. They're going to have to throw in some specificity work. They're going to have to damage their body in order to do those crazy things that only a handful of people in this generation are capable of doing. So my point is that if you're 14 years old and you got a lot of coaches and a lot of national level people telling you that you might have a chance to break world records, dude, go do overhead shit. I'm not saying to not do it, but I'm saying that most of the people that ask me about doing overhead work don't have a fucking prayer in breaking a state record.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Now they want to throw in all this fancy shit, like CrossFit stuff and all this other trash. And then what you end up finding is that, here's my thing, is I've been around the sport for 30 years, and everyone that I know that preaches overhead work to build bench press, and I'm just coming from a powerlifting background.
Right.
So Ed Cohen, Bill Kazmaier, I'm trying to think of who else would be in that category. There's a lot of them. They have no fucking shoulders left. And ironically, I just turned 40 and my shoulders are 100% perfect. And I go into Serrano's office and he does x-rays on my shoulders just to check my joints to see if all these other things, Ted Arcidi, some other guys, and my shoulders are fucking perfect.
Yeah, they are.
And I do, yeah. You know.
I do know.
I do a lot of triceps, and I will do overhead work maybe twice a year. Now, I want this to be clear. I do overhead work twice a year, and the last time I did it, I did 150-pound dumbbells for 22 reps. So how did I get better at doing militaries without doing militaries? And that should be the whole point of anybody's training cycle. Is how do we get better at doing potentially high mileage movements by utilizing low mileage movements that help us master that particular movement? So my point is, if I can be better at military pressing by doing a lot of tricep work and only minimally touching militaries, then in my opinion, that's a better way to go for shoulder health and longevity, just based on my individual process and how I built my bench press.
Right.
It was just funny to me that my bench press is mostly tricep strength, and when I want to do military presses, I can do them and do them stronger than most other people.
Right.
Now, if I was to have to do strongman, log pressing, and all that kind of stuff, I'm sure I would have to practice those implements more often. But I just find it ironic that I don't have a lot of muscle imbalances. The chest and back ratio is good. The tricep strength is good, and therefore the shoulders are still there, but I don't do a lot of direct shoulder work.
Right.
So I find that people that do a lot of direct shoulder work is a big deal. And yeah, look, if you look at Deppen 44, no overhead ever. Buddy Morris is genius on this. Yeah. I never learned this from Buddy Morris, but a lot of people don't know this. I was hired by Buddy Morris at the Cleveland Browns my first year out of grad school, and then he got fired from the Browns, and I never got to work a day. So point is that I know that overhead lifting and Olympic lifting looks sexy as fuck. I know it looks cool as shit. Show me somebody that's done Olympic lifting for multiple medal runs that isn't fucking debilitated. The point is that everything you do overhead puts more pressure on your spine and puts more pressure on your shoulder, and those are two things that we really need to focus on reducing mileage.
So would you consider at all then like landmine presses or different angles like that versus directly overhead?
Yeah, I would say get really strong at doing push downs, get really strong at doing cross-body triceps, get really strong at doing overhead tricep extensions, get really strong at doing JM presses, get really strong at doing, tape presses or what I call fold-ins, and then mess around shoulders mobile. And I can almost guarantee almost everybody your military press is going to go up without farting with it too much. But, it's just funny. Like I said, a lot of the guys that use the military press to build pressing strength and do a lot of overhead work, they tend to not have very healthy shoulders when they start to get in the higher age range. And to me, it's not worth having shoulder problems,
Someone's asking how you maintain your massive, sexy shoulders. I threw in the sexy, and the massive.
So no matter how much I try to make my bench press, all those things, no matter how much I try to make my upper body work not be tricep dominant, the triceps are still active.
Right.
The trick is that you don't want your shoulders to be the primary mover. So when I bench press and I do all my arm work, the bench press will take care of the shoulders and they will grow. You just have to be careful on not making sure that the brain doesn't make them primary movers, that they're secondary movers and stabilizers. So how I develop really good shoulders is doing a lot of bamboo bar and a lot of uneven, chaotic type movements or hanging kettlebells. Now, somebody asked about incline, and yes, I still do inclines. I will use inclines on the winning warm-ups all the time because I'm always one of the things that we have to talk about is changing the types of modes. So the way you can change a mode, let's just take the bench press for example. We can change grips, we can change resistance types, we can change angles, which is incline, decline, flat. We can change tempos, we can change rest periods. All of these things need to be rotated and modified consistently. So what I find is that on inclines, I will rarely use them for a max effort bench or a speed bench press, but I will use them very regularly for winning warm-ups for a change of angle. So, you can use inclines. I don't think inclines are bad, but like I said, in any pressing movement, in my personal opinion, you need to get strong triceps and heavily activated triceps and then let the shoulders grow secondarily, not primarily.
How often do you train your triceps?
Well, I only do triceps twice a week, so I'm a huge believer in the fact that your muscles and your central nervous system really can't recover from more than every 72 hours damage.
Right.
Now, you could maybe make gains quicker by doing them more often, but your time that you will be able to train as far as lifting age is concerned will be reduced, meaning that who gets stronger, the guy that can train triceps twice a week for 15 years or the guy that trains triceps 4 times a week for 7 or 8 or 10 years.
Right.
Right? It's all about consistency and maintaining volume. And I find that 72-hour rest periods between the actual muscle group is crucial for maintaining a 20-year career. And that's where you're really going to see the biggest numbers.
Do you vary between lifting heavy triceps and doing lighter stuff or more volume work on them?
So, yeah, what we do is, like I said, and strongly urge your followers to get out a piece of paper and not just listen to this.
Right.
But the first thing you want to change around is you want to change positions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Write this down, people.
Incline, decline, right? And I'm writing them down too. Incline, decline, flat. Okay, now we have hand types, so like grips. So we have kettlebells, we have dumbbells, we have different bars, we have different widths, right? Now we're going to get into something else. Tempos. So now we got 3-3, we got 5-5. Those are usually the two I use.
Right.
And then we got range of motion changes. So we can go floor press, right? Board press. Okay. So my point is that right now, if I were to plug in all of those different movements in a week or a month or a year, I've just come up with about 25 different variations, right?
Right. Yep.
So the big thing with the bar changes is you got ropes, you got fat bars, which I'm a huge component of because now we can get grip strong while we get the tricep stronger. But the point is that you need to, I think that every training cycle, you need to sit down and you need to write because a lot of times, if let's say some of your listeners have never used a 1-2-3, 1-2-3 tempo, it's going to feel like a completely different exercise and the muscle is going to throw a what the fuck flag up real fast.
Right.
And that's what you're always looking for. So a stimulus the body has not customized itself to is always going to be the one that is going to make it grow and get stronger the fastest, right?
Yeah,
so if we have an 8 or 10 or 12 or 15 exercise in the way we attack it rotation, every time we come back to that exercise 15 weeks later, the body's going to sense a new exercise. So it's going to sense new growth, new potentiation and new fibers, et cetera, et cetera. So with most lifters is we are creatures of habit, which ends up making us a creature of not getting any better.
Right.
Right?
Touche.
So if we like to use the reason that the conjugate system, in my opinion, is so powerful is because it's a system of rotation. Right? Whereas everything else is a system of stagnation. So if you look at a lot of other training protocols, they want to get people better based on the fact that they want them to practice the same fucking movement over and over and over again. That's awesome to a point. Then what ends up happening is that you create mileage, right? So now you have to think about it in their perspective, though. All these guys are creating these programs that have no conception of mileage. They don't care because they know the average person is only going to stick around and train hard for 3 to 5 years. That's if you're lucky. I mean, you and I have both been in this field a long time, and what do you think? What's the average client that's super serious stick around for? 2 years?
About that couple of years, a few years.
Yeah. Then what happens? Life kicks them in the ass. They change jobs. They move.
They fall off.
Fall off. Right. So when I design a program, and I'm going to say, hey, you're going to be really good in like 120 months. People are going to be like, fuck you. But I'm trying to get them better long term so they don't create mileage.
Right.
But nobody wants to hear that because, it's that's the biggest problem I have with a lot of these intensity people now, and I don't need to name any names because everybody knows who they are. But the problem is that intensity doesn't last, number one. And number two, they think that being injured is a rite of passage.
Sure.
I mean, look at all these new top guys. They're like, oh, I tore my hamstring last month, so now I'm working from this. Oh, I fucked up my shoulder. Oh, my back's trashed.
Right.
You never saw me post anything like that.
Right.
And that's why I'm 40 and I haven't paid for anything I've done for 30 years. You know,
right.
The point is that you have to be looking for people that are not only taking your performance gains into account, but also I want to be able to shake the hands of people I've affected 20 years from now and go, man, I'm sure glad I found you and started listening to you because I'm still in really good health.
Mm-hmm.
My knees still feel good.
Right, longevity,
point, I've won, you know?
Yeah,
but it's
absolutely.
not sexy. It doesn't sell because it's one of those long-term thought processes.
Long-term, yeah. Right.
You know?
So when we're talking about injuries and such like that, I'm going to switch and ask you another question in terms of deloading. So how often would you suggest someone deload or throw deloads into their program? And I think I saw you deload with German volume training. You're a monster. You're a different breed for sure, but would you suggest other people of the same caliber as you, although no one's at that kind of caliber, but how does deloading work for you and what would you suggest?
Well, I think the first thing you got to nip in the ass with that question is you're always better underdoing something than you are overdoing it, right? Mm-hmm. If I give you, okay, I'm going to show you. This is one of the best books in the world to read right here. I'm sure you have that in your library.
I do, yes.
Okay, good. Read one page of this book a day, and you will absorb probably 90% of it. And you might have to read that one page 10 fucking times because...
Will you hold that back up so everyone can see that so they can see what you're talking about?
So if you want to know where all my shit comes from, book was written in 1994, and it is the Bible. And this is the first edition that was not watered down from Western research. This was all Soviet and Eastern Bloc training methods, okay? Zasiorski was the professor of my professor at Penn State, Dr. Kramer.
Gotcha.
So long story short, then I got on a tangent and forgot what the fuck I was talking about. It's been a weird week.
That's fair.
Okay, we were going over the book, and then what we were talking. What was your question?
Deload. Asking about deloading.
Yep. Okay. So, all right. So when you deload, you remember it's always better to underdo something than to overdo it because you will recover from it. So we have to remember that it's not what you can do; it's what you can recover from.
Right.
In my opinion, by seeing a lot of people over many years training hard, all the way from Westside Barbell to Eddie Cohen to having lots of contact with Nebraska and Rick Hussey and watching all the Big Iron Barbell, and those guys hit tons of world records back in the mid-2000s, all the way to the stuff I do now with military and fire departments. Here is my philosophy. You have to make sure that you work in 30-day intervals, meaning that the body likes to work in monthly waves. Now, is it 5 weeks? Is it 3 weeks? I can't tell you. I don't know. But I know that there is something magical about a 4-week cycle where every fourth week you take something down to repair. Now, what you take down is what you are good at. So if you can strain your ass off, you pull away max effort work. If you're highly explosive, you take away speed work. If you have lots of endurance but you're not super strong, you take away the volume. Point is, you take away something. And I have found that if I take away something every fourth week, usually it's when I feel the best, too. So sometimes when I come into a deload week, I'm like, man, I don't feel like I need a deload. That's when I know I need it the most. Right. Because usually when you're at the top of your game is when it falls back off.
Sure.
So I toy around with being at the top, then come down, then come up, then come down, then come up. And as you can see, I'm getting higher and higher. But if I were trying to climb that hill in a straight line, I would just, boom, fall off. So what I've found is that every fourth week, if I pull something down, my body will recover faster.
Nice.
Now, let's keep this in mind. I slept anywhere from 9 to 10 hours a day, and I also had a 1 to 2 hour nap when I was at my strongest, and I still had to do that. So in my opinion, I think that people need to bring something down every 3 weeks.
Sure.
And I think that's because I had the diet and I had the rest completely dialed in. And I had a low stress work schedule. I mean, I was working from 8 in the morning till noon, and then I'd go back and work from like 5 to 6:30. I mean, it wasn't a huge work schedule. So if I didn't have any stress and I was sleeping perfectly and I was eating perfectly and I was training perfectly, at least as far as I could at that time, I still had to bring something down every 4 weeks.
Sure. Okay.
So
that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely.
My opinion is most people are not going to have that low of stress of a life, so they're going to have to bring something down every 3.
You see that question down there?
Strength sport?
Yes.
Do you think in high level powerlifting conjugate's effectiveness is limited to equipped lifting. I'm the complete and utter proof that it's not. I broke the all-time world record in the total geared. Then I broke 1,200 pounds in the squat in 2011 geared. Then I switched to raw and benched 600 raw. And then I did my first raw competition ever and totaled the third highest of all time with no knee sleeves on. Then went to my first raw unity meet and hit one of the highest subtotals ever done in human history. And I trained the exact same fucking way. So it's all, conjugate is not about raw or equipped. It's about how well do you know your body and are you honest with yourself and your weaknesses.
Right. Yeah.
Period.
Fair enough. Good answer. I don't want to take too much of your time, but can you tell us what is on your Patreon channel and how people can access that and what they get out of that and what that looks like for people?
So we have multiple tiers, and it basically gives you more access the higher up you go. So at the highest tier, which is a hell of a value, you're going to get every manual, every download that I charge for, and every workout that I do on a weekly basis handed to you. So, I mean, for $50 a month, basically for one training session, Patreon was not for a profit. It was I was trying to figure out a way to help disabled kids that had brain tumors and spina bifida and spinal issues when their parents are spending upwards of $500,000 on medical bills, and now they need help with their kid, but they can't afford it. They can come in and they can train with me for absolutely free. Right?
That's awesome. Oh, yeah.
And that's why I did that, because I wanted a better facility, and we're working towards that. I wanted a better facility for those kids to be trained to where I didn't have to feel like I had to ask the parents for any kind of funding. They could actually be helping out. And I feel like here's the other big thing with the Patreon channel is on the upper tiers, you guys can message me and ask me any question you want, and I will give you a really solid answer. So I found that initially it was for a place that I could control who was asking me questions. But then we platform to put manuals, put all my stuff. So that way, if you were bought into the philosophy and you understood that I was, there to give you the best information I possibly could, it was an easy way and affordable way for everybody to have access to that information without having to buy hundreds of dollars in manuals and all that other stuff.
Gotcha. Okay. That's awesome. Now, can they find the stuff off of mattwenning.com?
If you go to Winning Strength, winningstrength.com is where everything is found. All the way from the equipment, which I know you've seen my belt squat and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can get all the manuals. You can get the Stand Efforting and Matt Wenning download for anti-aging. That son of a bitch is probably one of the baddest DVDs. And I'm not just saying it because it's mine. I'm saying it because it's got professional editing. It's very concise and to the point, and it will make you have much better selections and not only training but food and all that other shit as you get older to feel better and do your best and not waste your time in the gym. And that was the whole point of that download. So for that price, it's a hell of a fucking deal.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's where you can get that stuff. And then obviously the YouTube channel, we give out a lot of stuff for free there.
Yeah, you have a lot of great content out there for people. It's awesome. So for those of you who listen, if you want more of Matt, go onto his website, sign up for the Patreon channel. You're going to get some of the best out there. Seminar schedule looks like, obviously you're on pause, I guess, right now for a little bit. So do you have anything later year?
Yeah, we're supposed to have a squat seminar in May at the facility. So that will be, I'm sure that by that time all this shit should be done.
Yeah.
We're looking at what we're going to do with it. I'm slowly getting to the point now where I feel like I'm putting out enough information that I'm slowly trying to not travel as much.
Sure.
I'm trying to put out more stuff on the internet versus having to go and sit in a shitty plane and deal with airports. You know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely.
Not that I won't do it. I just don't like it as much.
Right.
I'm supposed to run like a triple seminar in 3 different places in Canada within the year, but like I said, with all this stuff going now, I don't really know how that's going to happen now.
Nice. Okay. We need to get you back out here to Seattle too, maybe later in the year or beginning of next year.
I'll tell you what. If there's one other place that I would love to live, if money wasn't an issue and I didn't have so much shit going on here, the Pacific Northwest would definitely be a hard one to turn down.
Because your best friend's here.
My best friend's there, right?
Oh yeah. Damn.
Dude, I love that weather.
Yeah, it's nice.
People bitch and complain. I'm like, dude, it's so green. I love, like right now it's like rainy and slightly cloudy here in Ohio. I fucking love it because I'm light skinned, I'm blue eyed.
Yeah.
So I get headaches when it's too sunny. So for me, the Pacific Northwest.
You like the gloom.
I love gloomy. Yeah, I was supposed to live in a cave and fucking kill people. So if I was born 3,000 years ago, if I was born 3,000 years ago, my house would be built with human skulls.
Hell yes. No doubt.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I have one more question. You have a lot of admirers, lady admirers and male admirers. The question is, are you single?
I am dating someone.
Is it Mike O'Hearn?
Yeah. And the thing of it is, if I put a bag over his face, he's actually not bad,
Yes.
But
I figured it wouldn't be bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I've kind of always, I've never been married, I've never really been that serious. It's just, for me, and a lot of people don't know this, but, I started basically from the gutter, and I didn't realize how poor my mom was. Another reason I started the Patreon channel, it kind of hits home. The same age Trey is, the little kid that I trained that has the brain tumor and spina bifida.
Yeah.
He's the exact same age. I got hit by the car, and I was in a wheelchair for a whole year, and I was bedridden. So for me to make him walk better is huge. But the big thing is that I didn't realize how poor, even though my mom is a nurse practitioner, my sister is the oldest living person in the world with a reversed heart.
Oh, wow.
So her heart's backwards. And I didn't realize how much of a financial responsibility that was for my mom. So when I grew up and started to make a little bit more money, I didn't realize how much my mom had to budget to raise us.
Right.
And that was so for me to build the business up the way I have. It's been very focused on what I've had to accomplish to get where I'm at. But it's also why I think I walk around and people will look at me as, like people that don't like me, they think I have like a chip on my shoulder or I'm like arrogant. I'm not. I just bust my ass.
Sure,
it's a big difference, So people get mad at me when they ask for something for free and I tell them to join Patreon or something. They get all pissed off. And I'm like, you don't realize, like, I couldn't eat 20 years ago. Like
you busted your ass.
Yeah. I was living on $100 a week going to grad school. So, and because I had to take out student loans and I had to get GA spots and work. So you can't give me $10 a month to answer questions. I don't want to fucking talk to you. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So,
yeah, fair enough. Absolutely.
But that's the thing is I lived and ate and breathed and bled for everything I know and everything I do. So I feel like if I'm going to run this Patreon channel and do it for kids and good, a good cause, that people can be more respectful of that, So
right.
That's the thing is my point is it's just never given me a lot of time to have those kind of relationships, I guess. And you know how it is with trains like that.
Absolutely.
You travel and all that shit makes it tough. So I'm sure that one day it will be different, but I try not to do anything too serious. I think people change. And the problem is they change, but I feel like I've stayed the same a lot for the last 20 years, which is good and bad for certain things. I'm very OCD when it comes to training, other than I don't like to do the same exercises all the time. And I'm very OCD with how I like to sleep a lot. I think my lifestyle, the way I like to live, would be very hard to do with kids in a normal relationship where I wouldn't be able to get that 10 hours of sleep a day, and I wouldn't be able to work on projects without being bothered all the time.
Sure.
And it's different now that I'm 40. I think at 30 I was a lot more volatile with those situations. But, now it's one of those things where it's just kind of my lifestyle, and I think it would be hard for me to live any differently, but I'm not saying that that's not possible. But it would take somebody that definitely has a lot of patience. I think people see what you have and they don't realize all the work that you've done for it. And
absolutely.
That's been a big issue with past relationships is I've tended to dated girls that have come from very fortunate families and they don't understand work ethic.
Right.
So I feel
that's
like
hard.
I feel like when you're in a relationship, you know how it is, like you and Dan, you guys are equal.
Yeah.
You guys both work your asses off.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
that equal parameter. And that's
Right.
hard to find because, like for me, I think I would have to be dating somebody that was some type of a high-level physical therapist or a doctor to have the same work ethic I have.
Sure. Absolutely.
So
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, find me a hot doctor, and then I'll think.
I got you. I'll keep my eyes on. I'll take care of you. Next time you come visit, I might have a surprise for you.
Oh shit.
Do you currently have a mentor at all, or anyone that you kind of look up to in the industry right now?
Yeah, the big thing is, I think my big mentor was Charles Poliquin before he passed.
Right.
And that was a really weird situation because he sought out me. I didn't seek out him.
Yeah.
I was in Colorado doing a seminar, and I get this email from out of nowhere. Hey, I see you're doing a seminar close to my house. He lived in Monument, which was in between Denver and Colorado Springs. So it was like 25, 30 minutes from his house where I was doing the seminar. And he came and listened. And one of the biggest compliments I've ever gotten was he sat in that seminar. He goes, you just taught me things that I have completely forgot about and have not used in my training in a long time. And I'm going to go back and use them again. And that was like, wow, like basically the guy I was looking up to all through high school and college that was probably one of the first, I would say, super famous trainers.
Yeah.
Is coming to one of my things and telling me that I'm reminding him and showing him things that maybe he's seen before, but he hasn't utilized the same way or he's forgot about.
Sure. Yeah.
So we created the bond and we did seminars together over in Europe. So I was very fortunate to be around him for a couple, 2-3 years before he passed away, just unexpectedly. He had a lot of medical heart issues that were genetic. His dad died at 50. So, him living at 56. Well, I didn't know this, but I talked to him. It was pretty interesting. He told me that he had heart issues and he was the trainer for the Prince of Saudi Arabia for quite a while, right? So that's some big money.
That's badass. Yeah, no shit.
Well, he had a heart issue over there while he was over there, and they took him to a Saudi Arabia hospital, and they fucked him up. So he had open heart surgery, and they did something wrong to it, and that was what started the process, and that was 10 years before he died. So that was pretty wrenching as far as that goes. But I would say that I have different mentors for different reasons. I would say in training and diet, Stan Efferding and Michael Hearn would definitely be right there. And I'm fortunate enough that my mentors are also people that allow me to go and work with them and train with them and spend time with them and actually learn real shit. And it's so funny how obviously we look way different, but Michael Hearn and I share a lot of the same values. We graduated same body weight from high school. We both were very strong at a young age and started at a young age. We both have that almost OCD mentality and, structure of training and all that shit. He just, I believe, had way better genetics and discipline outside the gym as far as nutrition's concerned.
Sure.
And I just gave a shit about being as strong as I possibly could. So those were two big differences. But Stan Efferding being one of the guys that, to me, those guys are just the epitome of having the highest level knowledge and experience that is pretty much around today. So those guys for nutrition, I would say Dr. Kramer at Ohio State, which was my old professor at Ball State. He's in charge of the neuroscience and exercise physiology. He is a walking encyclopedia of strength research and knowledge. And when he retires, the strength field is really going to have a big problem trying to fill his shoes.
Right.
And he's close to retiring. He's got to be close to 70. So him for research for sure. I don't know. I'd have to think about it for a little while. All the guys, I used to talk with Verkhoshansky online over in Italy, but he was basically the godfather of plyometrics and invented jumping for training for sports in the 40s and 50s in Russia. And, when I got to talk with him privately online about how to train and what we were doing cycles-wise, and, anybody look up Verkhoshansky, it's going to blow you away with what they knew in the 50s and 60s. And he was a large influence to me. So I think the hard part is now I'm at that age and at that experience level where more influencers to me than mentors. I've become the guy that everybody wants to be mentored under.
Right.
But so it's weird because I feel like I've kind of became a mentoree versus being mentored, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of weird. And I think that's just age and experience. But I'm always
How do you like being in that role? Do you like being a mentor to other people?
Yeah, I do. But I just find that I think what made me myself was being so hard on myself. And that's what people can't really fathom is like, you know, I don't give out a lot of good jobs and pats on the back and stuff like that because to be completely honest with you, I don't do that to myself. You know, like I'm satisfied with what I do, but I'm never happy with it.
Right.
And that's what makes me learn more, keeps me hungry to train harder, you know, do all these things that I don't have to do now anymore if I don't want to, but it's because I don't want to be average. So like to me, I'm going to go train max effort legs tonight and I'm fucking retired.
Right.
Because I can't let it go. I'm doing it smarter than when I was competing as far as intensity ranges.
Right.
But the point is I get up in the morning and I ask myself every day is, did I do enough yesterday to make You there?
I see you. Yes, back.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I think what I try to learn is that I try to ask myself every day is what can I do to better myself today, and did I earn sitting around on my ass? And if the answer is no, I get off my ass and do something.
Fuck yeah, there you go.
You know, and that's the thing is I think people are too comfortable. I always try to live uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? Comfortability is lack of growth, you know?
Sure.
If you're not sore and uncomfortable today, that's because you didn't do anything hard enough yesterday.
Right.
If you didn't learn something new, I love writing manuals now because it makes me go dig around for why I do what I do.
Sure.
So I don't have an answer for everything and every question, but I'll tell you what, how I live my life and what I do, I can probably answer more than 99.9% of the population as far as why I go and do what I do at the gym, why I eat the way I eat, because I research everything I do.
You know all the whys behind everything you do, which a lot of people don't know that answer. So that's huge. Yeah.
So I wouldn't give it away for anything. I mean, you know, I look at a guy like Larry Wheels, and people would be like, man, I'd really like to be him. And I'm like, you know what? I'd rather be me. Because I think and I don't know the man, but in my opinion, his strength came too easy. So he abuses it in a certain way, meaning that if somebody were to ask him how to train, he would not really be able to tell them. I had to learn every fucking trick in the book to get super strong, which made me insanely smart.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I find that a lot of guys on top now that are lifters, you find that only maybe every 2 years are guys that come along that have the work ethic and the research ability to actually be what I consider a gold mine in the field. So I will say this, for example, the late 70s, right, and early 80s, it was Fred Hatfield, Dr. Squat.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
had the world record at 242 or 275 in the squat and was a PhD student, you know, and teach and wrote books. And that's what I try to do, you know. I'm not saying I'm Fred Hatfield, but I'm saying I don't know anybody else in the field right now that's trying to do what I'm doing and that has the lifting accolades and the background in the research, you know.
Sure.
So I think for everybody, I think if they can take anything home, if you truly have a passion for what you're doing, invest in yourself, you know, invest in going and doing internships, invest in going to school. I'm not saying that I learned everything that I know in school, but I'll tell you what it did do. It taught me how to think. It taught me how to analyze. It taught me how to debate. It taught me what was worth my energy and what wasn't. It taught me structure. And I think that's the biggest problem you find with a lot of these people now. I mean, I think that, to be completely honest with you, if Louis Simmons really wanted to change the powerlifting world, he should have went and got a fucking physics degree. Because the problem is that all the hardcore meatheads are going to listen to him, but at the end of the day, he's going to die a powerlifting gym owner. He's not going to have the same clout as a Fred Hatfield or somebody like that actually went and did the actual work, you know. And that's sad for me. I mean, I know he doesn't care, but for me, it's like, man, you had all this passion to be strong, but you really didn't want to invest in yourself to be that much better. And I think that's the thing that people need to realize.
Well, talking about education or self-education, do you have any other recommendations for coaches who want to be better strength coaches, aside from the book you already showed us and your content, your website, your material? Any other recommendations for us out here?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, you got to get Mel Siff's Super Training book.
Good one.
You know, that book is a fucking vast wealth of knowledge, but it's not it's not a readable book. It's one of those books that you dive into a chapter that sounds interesting and you read it and you walk away with more questions than answers.
Sure.
But that book is serious shit. Any of the old Soviet training methods, you know, Verkhoshansky, Medvedev, you know, anything that Zatsiorsky's written is amazing. You know, those are, if you just had those pieces of knowledge, the old Soviet manuals, my manuals, anything from, you know, Mel Siff, Zatsiorsky, Medvedev, and Verkhoshansky, I mean, you're going to be 99.9% ahead of everybody else. Now, as far as diet stuff goes, there honestly is nobody as well-rounded as far as what they're doing in their research and their methods and their accolades is Stan. So, you know, when you look at the vertical diet and you actually get the download and you read it, and you read all the research articles, there's not really a good way you can argue it.
Right.
You know, he's thought about everything, and, you know, like I said, I mean, he looks better at 50 than most people look at 16.
Oh, no shit, yeah.
You know, that's the big thing is, I think, you know, if the thing of it is that here's my deal. If you're going to listen to somebody, you can listen to anybody you want, but they have to have these three things to stand on, right? So if you have a pyramid, if you have a chair with three stands on it, one of the stands falls, the chair doesn't stand, correct?
Correct.
Education, okay? Experience. How long did you do it? And then how far did you go when you did it? So if you got a guy that has world records or he's a top level lifter, no matter what he does, you got a guy that's went to school for years and years to know what he knows, and you got a guy that stayed on top for at least a decade, he's definitely somebody to listen to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you miss one of those three, if you haven't been good for 10 years, if you haven't went to school for it, and if you haven't, you know, had the longevity, to my opinion, your value is not that great.
Yeah, that's fair. Absolutely.
And I appreciate that. I don't take up any more of your time, but I appreciate you spending the last hour with me and answering these questions and giving us some good advice. And
no problem.
Absolutely appreciate you, and I owe you. Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
All right.
Anyways, I do appreciate it. Thank you for joining us and letting my followers listen to you.
Not a problem.
And I will chat with you soon, and I'll probably bug you again to do this again while we're quarantined, because why the hell not hang out with your best friend?
Let's do it.
Sweet. I look forward to it. I'll chat with you soon.